Let's speak now with Arkady Ostrovsky, who is the Russian and Eastern Europe editor for The Economist. Thanks very much for joining us. Firstly, your interpretation of what we saw overnight in Kyiv.
Well, this is Putin clearly escalating his war in Ukraine, while keeping President Trump at bay and placating him, and pretending to negotiate. For Putin, negotiations is just another stage in the war. I mean, he's quite agnostic in terms of whether it's war or peace. He wants to achieve his goals. He wants to undermine. It's not, as far as he sees it, it's not really a war against Ukraine. He sees it as a war against the West. He is dismantling, or trying to dismantle the transatlantic security, and everything is collateral damage to him. So he wants to achieve it one way or another, and he's basically signaling that it will have to be on his terms.
The response from the UK so far is to call in the Russian ambassador, which I would see as not really good enough at this stage.
I wish they didn't do that.
Why?
I wish because it's laughable, frankly. It's just laughable. And I'm sure there will be quite a few smiles, and this will become a meme, that Russia has been punished by being denied coffee, as you said in your report. I mean, basically, the way I see it is better not to do that, because it just becomes, empty words. It devalues things. Britain has been incredibly strong, certainly in the start of the war, and diplomatically and in terms of weapons. But, what are these empty gestures supposed to say other than, oh, Vladimir Putin, could you please stop killing civilians and stop conducting this war that you've been doing for 30? It's very, very naughty. You really shouldn't be doing this. This actually, I think, is counterproductive in that it's this sort of protocol diplomacy is seen in Moscow as a sign of weakness. It would be almost better not to do that. It's clear sign that, as you suggested in your reports, everybody's talking about it, got to stop the war. The Europeans and Britain are, addressing Trump, saying that this is really bad. You've got to do something about it. And the truth is, it does stop with Trump and with Putin and with Zelensky. But the leverage is very weak. The America's leverage over Putin is quite weak. And the way I see it is that Putin is actually using Trump as leverage and using Trump as a lever to put pressure on Ukraine. Remember, it's important to remember that Putin has not been able to achieve his goals by military means. In the past, 2 years, they've taken about 1% of Ukrainian territory. And so Putin knows that he is also running out of resources. And now he's using Trump basically to get to where he couldn't get militarily. It is a really astonishing situation where, America is doing almost kind of trying to, doing Putin's bidding. Europe is, and Britain are drafting plans which to put security guarantees into Ukraine and maybe even troops if Vladimir Putin stops the war. Well, guess what? He's not going to do that.
With regards to our response, we've seen sanctions put on already. We've seen this coalition of the willing that Keir Starmer's trying to push, really, and the idea of sort of peacekeeping troops on the ground have been floated. What more is in our armoury in terms of the UK and the EU response? Is it a case of, actually expelling Russian diplomats altogether, or is that sort of mere gesture?
No, the only meaningful stuff is the money and increasing military production, sending more to Ukraine, providing air defenses, paying for those air defenses, really, we've been in this war for 3.5 years. British industry and European industry have started to increase their production, but it's not nearly enough. I mean, the idea, they help with money. The European help has been equal, actually, to America's. But the response should have been arm Ukraine and give it enough, quickly enough, to stop this. I think, in terms of sanctions, they're not going to make the slightest difference at this stage. I mean, the only thing that will make a difference, and nobody can quite achieve it, is to cut Russia's oil and gas revenues.
Right.
But that's going to be virtually impossible because it's a commodity which is very hard to sanction.
But in terms of the Russian assets, is there anything more there? The sort of frozen Russian assets? No. It's
well, again, we've been talking for how many years now about what to do with $300 billion that have been frozen Russian and central bank assets. Those frozen assets are still sitting there while everybody procrastinating, thinking, oh, is this legal? Is it not legal? How do we what do we do with this money? Putin broke international law. This war is illegal, and we're still thinking about whether it's legal or not legal to transfer the money, which would have been very material help to Ukraine of $300 billion, which would have allowed it to purchase a lot more weapon, a lot more air defenses, because there are two wars going on. There is a war on the battlefield, which has been pretty static in the war of attrition, and there is a war in Ukrainian cities. Armies can't do that. That's what air defenses do. And making statements to make these statements and expressions of concern are there to make ourselves feel better rather than actually help Ukraine.
What do you think the response from Donald Trump is going to be on this? Because I played a little bit earlier on before you joined, where he was talking about, he sort of uses this line that he has a good chat with President Putin over the phone, and then he feels not humiliated, but he feels very angry afterwards. Melania Trump has clearly been in his ear and seems to be one of the people actually guiding him with her utterances on it. But is he going to feel embarrassed in any way?
No, I think his response is not going. Frankly, I don't think that we're going to see much action from Donald Trump in terms of putting pressure on Putin. Partly because he knows that actually he doesn't have, as I said, that much leverage. I mean, the only thing he can do, really, and it's not going to be about money, it's not going to be about sanctions. The only thing he can do is say, look, I'm going to dial up to 11, and I'm going to allow American, planes take out, basically to start providing direct military assistance. That's not going to happen. So I think his response, if I understand what he's doing correctly, and I might not, but his response is going to be to put pressure on Vladimir Zelensky. And the pressure is going to be on Zelensky to agree to some of Putin's demands, to give up some of the territory, and possibly call early elections and to step down. That's what he's going to do, hoping that will be, and it's not illogical. What he's doing is not illogical at all, hoping that Putin can actually leave with taking some of the territory which he said he was going to liberate, in inverted commas, in eastern Ukraine, and see Zelensky leave office and see the change of government. This is actually what happened in another war. This is what happened in Finland in 1944 at the end of the Second World War, when basically Finland had to sign a peace deal with the Soviet Union, ceded some territory, pledged not to join Western alliances, but actually then did build most successful country in Europe. I mean, I think there are too many things here, but I think Putin. I think Putin probably does actually want to end this phase of his global battle against the West, because he is also running out of tanks, and it's costing Russian economy a lot. But Trump will put pressure on Zelensky basically to satisfy Putin that he can stop the active phase of the war. That's what I think he's going to do.
I'm really grateful for your time. Thank you for joining us. Arkady Ostrovsky, who is Russia and Eastern Europe editor for The Economist.